Welcome to the Sci-Fi Queens podcast. We had a little bit of a technical issue with our intro. My apologies. But we're here to celebrate all things sci-fi. If you're new to our channel, we ask that you hit that subscribe and notification bell so you know when our next show is coming up. We really appreciate that. If you want to support our channel, check out our website that's scrolling at the bottom of the page of our screen right now. It's sci-fi-queens.net. You will find information on our shows, on the queens, and the link to our merch store. I am your host, Nita, and tonight with me is my co-host, Sarah, the Queen of Darkness. Tiffany, the Queen of the Nerds, will be with us a little later. Hold on, I think she might be coming. Oh, not yet. And we have a very VIP guest tonight that's got me fangirling out. I do not care. I will not make an apology for it. One of my favorite indie sci-fi and all around all genres of comic books, Avena Comics, people. John Avena from Avena Comics. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Queens, John. How are you doing today?
Good. Very excited. Love the show. Love you guys and stuff. So this is really cool for me.
Yes, we tried to have you last year and we weren't able to get you because you had that you were stuck in Florida. The worst place to be stuck at. But that's okay. We got you now. I'm very excited to have you here to talk to you about your comics and just tell you about how I feel when I read your comics. Because I've read quite a few of them. I'm very excited about it. So let's tell us about you. What got you started writing comic books?
Yeah. So I am from Chicago. So I grew up in like a very artsy city. And I went to school for like film. I love telling stories and I thought cameras were like the best way for me to do it. I made a handful of like short films and stuff. And then the pandemic hit. And all that kind of went away. Like nobody was gathering to like do projects.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't really do any of that stuff. And then I started working with my mom at a funeral home because she owns her own funeral business. And I needed a creative outlet for all that because that, like, especially during COVID, was a real heavy time for mortuary, anything. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Then I started writing just to kind of get that out of me, and I didn't really think anyone would care about it. So I just started kind of putting them out little by little, and then it kind of built up traction, and now it's kind of built itself out to like this like company that I've made for myself, and it's really cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you were even in New York Comic Con last year. That's a really big deal. That's a huge venue.
Yeah.
It's quite elite, to be honest. They don't let just anybody in there, brother. So how was that experience for you?
It was my first time in New York too, so it was a lot. We had gone to New York, but it was just like a day trip before. So to be in New York for like 5 days in a row, because I got there Wednesday and I left Monday morning. So like I was doing all the New York stuff, like trying to figure out the Javits Center, getting in, getting out, and it was me, my wife, and my 3-year-old. So it was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. I think we celebrated his birthday while we were there. Like that's how much like running around and planning we were doing. Yeah, but it was awesome. It was like our highest grossing show like that year. It was crazy. It was huge, but it was a lot of fun. Like New York is a totally different vibe than Chicago. It's a lot busier, a lot more moving around than what I'm used to here. But it was cool. Everyone was like real nice. I got into it, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a very big venue, and it's packed, and there's levels. Yeah, I was actually going to go, and I would have had the opportunity to meet you, but I got sick and couldn't go. I said, I really don't want to give people my germs. And I knew you were going to go with your son. You're welcome. Yeah. And I knew you were going to be there with your son, and I did not want to give him. He's so cute. I would not be able to not be around him if I was around him. So so I didn't want to give anybody my germs. So I said, I'm just gonna stay home. But yeah, that's a pretty amazing thing to have accomplished. I mean, and it was fairly quickly. I mean, do you feel like your success like came in like a rush, like an a push, like you just
Yeah,
exploded?
you don't really feel it till like you're in certain moments. Like every time I'm at a show and someone comes up to me and they're like, "I saw you online. I actually wanted to buy this, but I wanted to wait to meet you." And then I'm like, "Oh, people, there's actually someone else behind my screen when I'm talking to my phone or like making a TikTok or something." Because I always feel like I'm just making it for like the same 8 people that see all my stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, I was like, no one's gonna care. And then like people will come. There was one guy at New York Comic Con. He was like, I'm Mexican. I live in New York. He's like, I saw you're gonna be here, and he bought like one of everything. And then he came back like a couple of days later. I think he came back like that Saturday, and he bought a couple more for his classroom because he was a teacher. So I was
Yeah,
like, that was really cool. Like that he read some just while he like during the time of the show, and he was excited about it. So that doesn't happen a lot. And like in those moments, I'm like, oh, okay, this is why I'm doing it. Like this, it's not just for
yeah,
me. Like I'm actually doing this for like other people now. I actually want to read my stuff.
yeah. And now we need to know what inspires your stories, because if you guys haven't read his stories, what are you doing with your life, really? You need to get his comics because they're incredibly beautiful, well written. They are thoughtful. The artwork is phenomenal. Um, but your stories are culturally significant, and
Thank you.
they teach they teach a part of Mexican culture that is, I feel like we don't get enough of. And it's so beautiful. And I was telling you before the show started that I'm reading your stories and these comics, and I felt a part of them. It's not my culture. I'm Puerto Rican, but I felt the beauty, and I felt like I was being welcomed into this beautiful culture that was not mine, but I felt it was mine. I was like, I can see this, I can understand this. What made you decide that's the path your stories would go?
So when I was younger, I used to watch like those Leonard Nimoy like mythology videos that he would do. Like he would do like
Yes.
these little documentary things, and I loved
Yes,
them,
he
but
did.
they never reflected like Latino culture or anything. It was always very like
Mhm.
Arthurian legend or Greek mythology
Very
ish.
Anglo, very Anglo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was cool because it showed
Very,
me stuff
very.
that I didn't know about. And I always thought like, oh, there's
Yeah.
probably a kid out there that wants to see that, and I was that kid that wanted to see it. So when I started writing,
Yeah.
I just kind of wrote for like what would make like my uncles happy. Like what's the thing that they never really got to nerd out about? Because my uncles are still like deep diving speed racer to this day. Like that's the thing that they're excited about. So I was like, what if I could make something for them
Yes.
that they could see? And it started with I have a mariachi story, and he's a mariachi singer that fights monsters with a silver string
Yes.
guitar. It's called Lockjaw and
Yes, I
Pistolero.
love that story. I love that story.
So it started with him, and that was like going to be my introduction for people to like Latin mythology. And we're grabbing right now; it's primarily Mexican, but we are grabbing like Puerto Rican and Brazilian mythology stuff to add into it because it all takes
Yeah.
place in like the Americas. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to be able to like show kids like mythology is a worldwide thing that you can explore, and
Yes.
it's fun seeing how they all
Hmm.
tie in together
Yeah.
under certain myths. So
Yeah.
it was just my way of giving back a little bit.
That's funny. When I
That's
was in high
beautiful.
school, I was actually I was looking at studying mythology because like the more I dug into it, the more it was the same stories just told through a different lens.
Yes.
It's like you're watching the same thing, but you change the channel and it's a different language. Um, and I just thought it was really interesting. And I mean, I didn't get into these, but now I'm super interested now.
I wrote
And
a
that's,
book.
I get that because when I was in high school, we learned about mythology, but it was always Greek mythology.
Yeah.
But, and you didn't realize, and I didn't know then, that there's mythology in all cultures, and there's
Yep.
lore, and you start to realize, oh wait, I can be represented in this, you know.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite comics of yours, and it's not just because it's sci-fi and you're on the Sci-Fi Queens podcast, but it is Lucha Forever. It is Lucha Forever. Oh, tops. I love Lucha Libre. I grew up loving Lucha Libre. And you took a story, something that we all enjoyed growing up watching, and you made him into a hero.
Yeah.
Like, talk to me about this.
So I wanted to do a story about a dad pursuing his passion and the way it affects his family, right? Because I was a
Yeah.
new dad at the time I started doing comics, and I wanted to do it about like, all right, I'm gonna become a writer. I'm gonna work on this, and how is it gonna affect my newborn if I'm diving all this time and energy into making a story? Like, do I give it up? Do I pursue it full time? The risks versus the benefits of it. And I was like, oh, that's what this character wants. That's what this his
Hmm.
name is Guillermo in the book. I was like, this is what Guillermo wants. And then I thought
Yeah.
like, well, what would be a fun way of him doing it? Because I didn't want him to be a writer because that's too Stephen King of me to just implement myself. So I made him an actor or a lucha wrestler who wants to be an actor. He wants to kind of be like The Rock or like John Cena. He sees those guys and he's like,
Yes.
why not me? And he just fails every step of the way, but he always fails up a little bit. And then at the time that there's this big alien invasion and he's ready to like save the world, he also still wants to be this actor character. And it's a lot of fun to kind of play with that dynamic of it. And it's getting more and more into the sci-fi of the story. Like we're starting to see more of like the extraterrestrial stuff, the space travel, and I have a lot of fun doing that because like I was a big Star Trek, Star Wars kid growing up. So it's like getting to kind of play with like that dynamic of it, like a fun middle ground
Yes.
between the two.
Yes. And I love your female characters in your comics. They're so well written. So, they're not, you don't read about them or see their depiction and feel objectified.
Yeah,
Or at least I didn't, as a female reader. I felt seen. I feel like, oh, okay, this is something that I can see in women. I can see this happening, and I can see why she would behave this way or say these things. And it's your writing is just on point with me. And yeah, I just felt like you understood this feminine side of comic book writing, because I think that writing female and male characters can be challenging for some
yes,
people, because we tend to write based on our objectified view of that gender instead
yeah,
of the actual gender and how they would behave and think and feel. So I think that you were able to capture that really well in these in the interpersonal connections. Like I'm going, wow, this is a comic. Like, am I reading like a full on book here? Like, whoa, it's deep,
yeah.
you know?
Well,
Yeah.
I was raised by like a single mom. So my mom, like time and time again, reinvented herself. She was a mariachi singer. Then she went into banking, and then she became a funeral director later in life. So
Wow.
she's never stopped like evolving. And I have five sisters, so I know it's more than just like, oh, it's a female character. She must think this. I'm like, no, like there's variations of like how people think, and don't
Yeah.
think about it as writing a female character. You're writing a person. They have wants, they have needs, they have a goal. What are they? How do
Yes.
they get there? And that's where I wrote that. I wrote a D&D book called Familiar Dungeons. It's a like Dungeon and Dragon style book, but it's about a group of siblings, and I wrote it about my siblings and me. So a lot of times when people read it, they're like, I like the female main characters because they're in like full armor. And I was like, yeah. I was like,
I'm telling you, Sarah, you got to get his D&D comics, because I
yeah,
think it's
Yeah.
right up your
yeah.
reading choice. She would
Oh
love
yeah.
that.
There's one character that is in like a more revealing outfit, and then when they ask her about it, she was like, well, because there's like NPCs in the world because they get sucked into a D&D
Mhm.
module. She was like, well, it's not my fault. A guy made me. So that's why
Oh
she's
god.
not wearing. Yeah.
I
But
tell
here's
you,
the thing.
it's
Oh, go ahead,
yeah.
Sarah.
I said that's one of the things because I play, role playing type video games, and that's the funniest shit. When you put on the same armor on a man and a woman, and a man is like completely covered, you put it on a woman, and it's like boobs and crotch, and that's it. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Here's the thing,
What?
though. I mean, we can look at it two ways. Either the female character is being objectified, right? Or we can
Mhm.
see it as she is empowered by her body, her sexuality, her strength, and she's letting you know by what she's wearing that she's empowered. So we can see it in two ways, right? And I think it really depends on where a person is
Yeah.
emotionally,
Mhm.
and they'll then decide what it is that it feels from them. And that's why I have a rule. Whenever I do it, and Sarah knows this, Tiffany knows this,
Mhm.
when I do a book review or comic book review, I don't do one if I don't like it. Because what I
Yeah.
don't like doesn't mean somebody else doesn't like it, but you are gonna hurt that author. And that's not
Yeah.
okay, because maybe it didn't speak to me. Right. Sometimes
Yeah.
we'll talk here about different sci-fi shows, and I'm going, I can't get into that one. It's just not. But then they'll
Exactly.
Yeah.
like love it. They'll love it. And that's okay, right? Because what one
Because
person doesn't
everybody
like,
is different.
everybody's
Right.
that's right. And it speaks to us differently. And that's
Yeah.
Mhm.
okay. And I think that because let's go back to Star Trek, right? Uhura,
Yeah.
mini dresses, but that was a symbol of power back then
Right.
for women. They were taking back their autonomy, their right to make choices for themselves, their
Yeah.
sexuality, their control. So can we not think the same way about these comic? I think the storyline will tell us where the author's mind was at. And
Yeah.
that's the difference, is where that storyline is. Because I know with Lucha Forever, your female characters in the second edition, she one can argue that, oh well, she was dressed kind of tight clothing. She was in space, and she's a fighter, and she
Yeah.
needed her flexibility. Say
Right.
that, right? And I think that there's this beauty about it that needs to be seen.
Yeah.
And I,
And
I think you capture that.
we joked about it in the thing too because when we see her, so in the story, the character Soul, she basically works for like the Men in Black type thing of the situation, like they control alien presence on
Yeah,
Earth,
I love it.
and she's in like full SWAT gear, like tactical gear. She gets her
Hmm.
powers, and she gets her powers from the male character. So because he's a wrestler, he dresses her like wrestlers on TV. So it's like the
Yes.
tube top kind of sports bra-ish thing, and then the like longer capri
Hmm.
pants type stuff. And
Hmm.
then when we see her again, she has it modded out to fit her because now that she can control what it is,
Yeah.
she makes it her own. And it's still,
Yeah.
it's not like full body armor because she is a wrestler and they have like the movability and it's the performance of like the
Exactly.
presence as a wrestler. So that was fun. I love doing the costume designs for the books now. Like I'm getting more into it with like our different artists because I like to kind of see where they're from, and then it gives me an like
Yeah.
opportunity to go through and look at like wrestling like costumes from when like a wrestler starts to where they ended their career. Because if you follow like the
Yeah.
Bella twins, the first outfits were really
You
like
would see
revealing
that
tight,
progression. Yeah.
and then when it ended, you can tell they actually had input in what they wear and like the comfort like level of it. And I'm just like, okay, cool. So for this character, we're gonna kind of see that progress too. Whereas like when they
Yeah.
finally get to the point where like they're themselves, the outfit's gonna match that presence for them.
Mhm.
Now you're an indie author. Do you also use indie artists to depict the characters and draw and sketch?
Yeah, so all my art, one of my artists just got picked up by Marvel, which is really cool. Like I'm super happy for them. They're working on
Very
Avengers.
cool.
Yeah, so that's from our book
Oh
like
my God,
Starbucks.
that's
That's one of our horror
huge.
books. Yeah. But yeah, all of my artists, they're like Brazilian, Latino, all that stuff too. And we basically like design everything together. I give them a bunch of reference photos from like different pop culture things. For Lockjaw and Pistoletto, his outfit, if you look at it, is very Han Solo because that's his personality, is kind of like that I
Yes,
don't really care kind of guy.
very
So
true.
it's a
Very true.
mariachi outfit, but it's got the Han Solo look to it. It's got like the open V-neck under like a vest type thing. So I was like, I want that, but I want it to fit this kind of cultural aspect. And it was a lot of fun to work on. So I really enjoyed it.
That's wonderful. I love that. I love that so much. I think that, it's really thoughtful to, as indie authors, to use other indie artists,
Yeah,
because the struggle, and the struggle is
right.
real, brother. And the fact that you're reaching out to other Latino
Yeah,
artists, it- that is just allowing us to be seen in a different light, because for so long, so many artists had to portray play roles that
yeah,
portrayed us so negatively, and it's like we're more than that. Yeah, that happens, but that's not the only thing that happens, and that's where
yeah,
the problem lies, right? And I like the fact that you are bringing in these Latino artists from everywhere, from all cultures, because I think
yeah,
that there's this disconnect sometimes among Latinos. It's like at
yeah,
the end of the day, we are just Latinos. We are all Latinos. And if we were to, get together and just support one another, the impact will be greater. And
right.
I
And
think that's what you're doing.
I'm trying. It's hard because it does. There's definitely like tribalism within like the Latino community. Like
Oh
Mexicans
yeah.
tend to stick to Mexican. Like everyone knows like different. I can tell a dialect from like a mile away. Like, oh, they're this, they're that. And
Hmm.
I think a lot of times we kind of allow that to like separate ourselves. Like, oh, if I'm going to help somebody, like let it be another Mexican person. And
Hmm.
I stray away from that because I'm like, it's hard enough to make a comic, make a story, that if I start
Yeah.
narrowing the field of vision down to only working with like one specific group of people, it's not going to benefit me. And I won't get the
No.
input from other people because if
Hmm.
I'm just telling Mexican stories, there's the chance that I'm going to make it too like colorized as well because like I'm from
Yeah.
Guadalajara, Mexico, and it's a very white part of Mexico. So if I just start narrowing that field of vision down, I could end up like hurting myself in the long run. So working with people from
Yeah.
like other cultures, they'll kind of help me out too if I'm doing something where they're like, "Hey, what if we tried this or what if we tried that?" Like we did for La Llorona, the other Lucha spinoff book. Me and that artist work together so much that we have like a shorthand back and forth, and he'll just put references or make changes, and I'm like, I didn't even think of that, and he's like, I know, that's why I'm doing it because we have like this rockabilly character in it, and we based his spaceship on like a '50s hot rod, and it's so much
Loving
fun.
it,
Like,
loving
yeah,
it.
so and he's from Brazil, but he was looking up so much like Americana stuff, and he was like, "Oh, there's like this Chuco culture thing too from like California. We're gonna add some of that flair into it too." So I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you don't realize how diverse that it can be, if you're Mexican from California, there's a difference from being from the East Coast, or
Yeah.
it's and that's the same thing with Puerto Ricans. Like, I can hear someone speaking Spanish and go, yeah, I think they're from San Juan.
Yeah.
They might be from here. The accent kind of changes just a slight bit, you know. I like to call it, oh, the Bad Bunny Spanish, or the
Yeah.
Ricky Martin Spanish, because they're from polar opposite places.
Yeah.
Bad Bunny's country. He's actually from the town next to mine, and
Oh,
he's
that's cool.
country, while Ricky Martin is from San Juan, the
That's
capital.
why it's
So
slower. Yeah.
his Spanish is very, very different.
Yeah.
And so it's very different. So it really and I think that it brings to light the diversity within one culture, within one place, because no, not everybody in Mexico looks the same.
Right.
We don't all have the telenovela Mexicans that are, six
Yeah.
four. No, some of us are brown, some of us are lighter skin.
Yeah.
We're not a monolith in any way. And these stories you tell show that. And that's what I
Yeah.
like. No one looks blanket
I
Latino
think that
white.
comes from
There's
like
less diversity.
coming from watching like Star Trek and stuff at like my grandma's house when I was little. It was just like, oh, there's like a whole cast of like variation here, like this, like hearing accents come out too. Because
Hmm.
before that, all I watched was like Doctor Who. So that was like my big sci-fi draw was like old Doctor Who, like Tom Baker reruns. And I was
Yes.
like, this is the coolest thing ever. But it was primarily just like English accent things. But I was like, oh, they like this is amazing. And then I started watching Star Trek because that was starting to air after that. Like PBS did a
Yeah.
number on me, and then I got to get into like Star Trek and really blew it all out for me.
Now, how
Yeah,
much research does it go in for you when you're writing? Because you're not just telling, the Mexican side, side of a story. You're also
yeah,
telling a sci-fi or an action. Because he's got whatever genre you like, he's got them. Okay,
yeah.
I mean, he is just as diverse as it comes. So, how much research does it take to do this? It has to be a lot of work.
So a lot of times the the story will dictate what genre I think will like fit best for it. So like
Okay.
the story about like the father not like Lucha not knowing whether or not he should give up on something. Like sci-fi really has no boundaries. Like it can just it expands. It's all about like travel and investigating. I was like, oh, a guy
Yeah.
that's looking inward. That's great. And then the hardest part is if I'm doing like more of a period piece. So like Lockjaw's set, it's a western. So like making sure like if we have them go into a room, I don't see like light bulbs. It's got to be like lantern light or candlelight. Like depending on where they are, if they're like deep into like the desert of like Arizona, like Tombstone, they're not going to have a lot. They're not going to have access to electricity. But if he's going into a city, there is. So like making sure I'm paying
Exactly.
attention to that kind of detail takes longer. But I like if I sit down to write a script, if I already know in my head where it starts and where it ends, I'll sit down to write it, and it'll take me like a day and a half to kind of get through it because
Really?
I write really fast, and then I go over, and then it's like revision, 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 and
Got
I'm
it.
editing it up until the moment that we're ready to print it, just because like, oh, I thought of a funnier joke, or I thought of a better punchline, and I can change the dialogue, or if I gave too much information on a scene, I can go back in and be like, I don't have to tell them A to Z, I can tell them a little bit, and then in the next issue, give them a little more, and I'll take stuff out. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, the writing part of it and doing the research maybe takes me a little while because I'll look up like we did that hot rod thing with the car in space, and I was like, let me look up hot rods I like. And my dad used to have a GTO, so I was like, I'm gonna start with the GTO's grill, and, like the whole front end of it, and then we're gonna build it out from there. And we're looking at like Jetsons and all that kind of stuff to see where the car spaceship dynamic can build out. And then I just wrote it because I did a book called The Best Is Yet to Come, and it's like a newer sci-fi book I did, but it's like Melrose Place meets the Jetsons. It's a murder mystery in a futuristic apartment
Oh,
complex, and it's a couple. It's the wife
I
is a
need to
writer.
read this. I need
It's
to read this.
very it's a
I need to
spicier
get
book
this
than I
book.
normally write because it's about husband and wife's relationship,
Yeah.
and the wife is a romance writer, and the husband is just like an accountant who's dreaming about how to get like some kind of energy into their lives again. And it's about like AI bots, like Jenny from the Jetsons, that robot. It's about like, well,
Yes.
what if that is something you can totally reprogram and change and just fix the holes in your relationship using this AI bot? But the whole world looks like the Jetsons if it had been heavily lived in and never really left the 60s. So it's a ton of fun, and but like I said, it's a little bit spicy. It's not like an all age book. It's definitely like adults and up, but it's a
Is
lot
it
of fun.
yes.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to ask you if you would ever consider writing like a graphic novel or a book. I mean, you have written this book, which I did not know about, but I'm still going to get it because that sounds good.
Yeah.
Um, but a graphic novel with Mexican lore and a little sci-fi, that sounds about right up your alley. Like, I'm just giving you work right now. I'm just going to put you to work.
I thought about so I have plans for like a graphic novel type thing to like build out, but it's a little bit harder because it's way more pages. So I do
Yeah,
want to do it. It's more of like I would have to kickstart it and then get enough people interested in the early version of what it's going to be, and then
yeah.
build it out. And funny enough, I have a little notebook here, and it's for a book called because I always make these little notebooks. Like I designed them myself and I put them together. It's just like a little moleskin notebook, but I do it for each comic I have. So whenever I have an idea, I write it in its own little one. And this one is called "He Was a Company Man," and it's a sci-fi graphic novel idea I had. But it's like, what if Benicio del Toro worked in like an office building and then stumbled across like a whole bunch of bad stuff. But it's a lot of fun, and it definitely plays with like 60s tropes on sci-fi because that's like my favorite genre of sci-fi is like old pulpy
Yes,
sci-fi because it's
yes.
terrible. Like every guy is the
It
worst
is
guy you've ever met, and like every girl just like collapses
horrible.
into his arms. So I was like, what if I could fix that retroactively? Like now that I can tell the story, I'm gonna go back and fix it using like today's lens on that time period, and that's what that story is about. But that is one that I want to do as like a graphic novel. And I did write a short story, like just like a prose novel type thing. And it's coming out in like this compilation thing with a bunch of other writers. But
Oh,
that one is
nice.
like that one is an alien story. So that one is like a sci-fi thing, but it's set in like a summer camp with these kids. So it's a little bit of like it, but with an I guess it is an alien, but it's a little bit of like more like generic alien type thing. A little simpler to
But you
understand.
need to tell us when it comes out, and you need to send me the link. You need to
Yes.
send me
Oh,
where
for sure.
people can read it because we will
Mhm.
let everybody know.
Oh, that's great.
We are. We're gonna let everybody know. But I think you would definitely get support on that on Kickstarter if you did it because I think that I don't think you realize how much people like your writing and how many people are reading your stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think that I think because sometimes authors they don't realize how impactful their writing is and they don't
Yeah.
want to see it and they're very shy about it.
Yeah.
But you are having an impact. You are reaching people, and I think you're teaching people through your stories, and you're sharing these beautiful cultural stories, and I think that's important. And a graphic novel, I think, is something that you would excel in. I truly do. Um, and if you put Benicio del Toro in there, like I just really like hearts for you
He
because oh
is
yeah,
my favorite.
brother.
That's my favorite.
Oh, he's
Like I love him.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I
He's
I believe I live in Delululand that Pedro Pascal and Benicio del Toro are watching right now. Do not tell me otherwise. Don't tell me otherwise because they're watching and they know I
yeah.
love them.
Oh yeah.
And they're gonna be excited. They'll be excited to be in a graphic novel. I absolutely think he would support you, one hundred
That would be
percent.
amazing. Yeah. No, he's my
That would be
favorite for sure.
awesome, right? Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Can you imagine? You get reached off DM to by him.
I
That
would
would
pass
be
out.
awesome.
Yeah.
I would pass out with you.
yeah. Oh,
But Sarah, I've been dominating this conversation with him because I'm a super fan. But please interject if you have questions or thoughts to share with our guest.
So what advice would you give someone that wanted to start writing or I mean, just writing in general or even making their own comic books?
don't wait too long to start. Don't bog yourself down with needing to get all the facts right. Or like some people will overplot and they'll need a full A to Z listing of like everything their character is going to think and do before they start writing. I know where the story starts and I know where the story ends, and then I just start writing. And I kind of know like in the middle the big beat that they need to do to get to the rest of it. I read that book like The Hero's Journey a billion times growing up. It's the one that like Star Wars was like written
Yes.
through. Yeah, it's got like a really cool. I think even Leonard Nimoy did the audiobook for it, but it's like he touches everything that I love. So, but it's like I read that so many times that like now I just kind of base my arcs loosely on it and just kind of know how to circulate. So if you're gonna start, if you really have the passion where you think you have a story that people are gonna care about or that you just have to get out, just start writing it today. Like literally, if you just need to start writing down character names on a piece of paper, that's great. Do that, and then tomorrow write the first page, and then the next day write like 2 pages, and then before you know it, you'll have it done. But it'll never finish itself until you actually start typing. And I know typing it is
Yes.
the most nerve wracking. And people that are worried about giving it to a reader for feedback, not everyone's gonna know what your intentions are or what you're hoping to get out of it. So don't even worry about that. Worry about telling the best story you can for yourself. And then the readers and stuff just get little pieces of feedback here and there and take what you want, throw away what you don't like, and just write it for you. And then people will start to pick it up. And if you're a first time writer too, write something that's about a character first. Write something that's about a one person. And then after you've written that story maybe 2 or 3 times, write about a bigger world, write about a bigger thing. Because like the best way to think about it, it's not sci-fi, but if you think about like the Hobbit book before Lord of the Rings,
Yes.
the Hobbit book is about Bilbo, and the world builds around Bilbo. Lord of the Rings is about everybody, but by then he had already written the one good thing he had to write first in order to help him write out the rest. Think about it that way. Write about Bilbo first, and then later on you can write your 6 novel saga, but write the one character thing first.
Yeah, that's beautiful advice. Truly is.
Yeah, great advice.
We have a message for you in the comment section. Our other co-host was not able to join us, but she did want to let you know that she is with you in spirit and wanted to say hello. So that's Tiffany, the nerd goddess.
Hi,
She's the nerd.
Following you on TikTok.
She has great reviews and she gives great just updates on sci-fi, and it's fantastic. She's got me hooked on way too much TV.
That's what I need, because like I was going through a list of like what kind of sci-fi stuff I watch the most of, and it's definitely like Doctor Who, and like a bunch of like older stuff. Like I'm still hooked on Firefly, even though it's been out.
I love Firefly. It's the
I love
best.
Firefly here.
Yeah, I was like, if you guys ever just do like a Firefly episode, please bring me back, because I got like the books, I got all the stuff. Like I know Joss Whedon's problematic, but like I love what he made so much, because I love that like sci-fi cowboy genre type thing that he had going for it.
Yeah.
That's exactly the sci-fi
that's kind of the fun
cowboy.
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I like sci-fi books as like my weak point. Like I was going through my list, I was like, I'm not reading a lot of sci-fi. I'm watching a lot of sci-fi, but like reading it is where I need my recommendations.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the Sci-Fi Queens, we do book recommendations. We
Yep.
have everything you need. Just watch us.
Yeah.
Now, what's next? What is next for John Avena and Avena Comics? What is it that you can tell us that's coming out that we want to know about? Because we are in your business today. I
Lucha Forever.
told you before we get on, we're going to be in your business.
Lucha Forever 3 is done, so we ordered it from the printer. So Lucha, yeah. So and
You have had me waiting too long.
I know, and that's something I talked to the artist about, because I was just like, we're taking too long to get it out. So
tell them to get it together.
It's gonna wrap up in issue 4 as the first volume of it, the first kind of saga of Guillermo's life.
Yes.
And then from there we go on to do more. And then we have that one coming out. We have Lockjaw number 4 coming out. We have I wrote a book called Thunderstruck, and it's all about mythology from around the world, but it's focused. It starts off focused on Greek mythology, because it's like Zeus is back, he's a jerk, the world's falling apart, and it's one girl trying to reclaim her life, but she's cursed to be a Gorgon. So when she gets angry, she Medusas out, and then when she like centers herself again, she's kind of like the Hulk, but with Gorgon. And then the 2 other girls with her, one can't talk because when she does, it's like a siren call, and it just works people up into a frenzy. And the other girl can't be touched because then she harpies out. So it's kind of like, I noticed this, and like I said, I have a lot of sisters. People will be like, oh, I don't like her, she talks too much. And they'll just kind of like silence the one they think talks too much. The girl that they claim is too promiscuous, even though she's like if you're born curvy naturally, it's not your fault that like shirts fit you like that, but people will blame you for wearing
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
like that's
Mm-hmm.
what I wanted to kind of tell in the story is like the things people don't like about you is what they're going to villainize you as, and nowhere does
Yes.
that better than like Greek myths. But the
Oh yeah.
world,
Yeah.
and then the world around them shows that like, oh well, other gods exist and they're here too, and they never really left. So then we talk about like Mictlantecutli in Mexico. We bring up like Norse gods and how close they are tied to like Greek mythology. And it's a lot of
Yep.
fun because everyone, you get to see what the gods would be like if they evolved and just kind of stop caring. And we have volume 2 of that book coming out. So that book,
Ooh.
it's me, and the artist is from Italy. She's Italian, but it's fun getting to work with because she's like one of 3 female artists that I work with. So I told her, I was like, make it cute, but like we can't. I don't want to like sexualize them for the sake of like the male gaze of the story. I want it to be like
Exactly.
everything they wear would be fashion forward, or because they're like 20 somethings living in Chicago. And she's like, oh, I know exactly how to make them dress and stuff because she did an Audrey Hepburn biography that was like
Nice.
the estate did it. So she's like, I draw fashion stuff first and I draw comics second. So that book is my wife's like favorite book that I do. And it's like the only one that I know for sure she's read. And then we have Familiar Dungeons, the Dungeons and Dragons story. We have a new volume coming out tomorrow. It's going to be out tomorrow. And the cool thing is with that one, for the series, I actually wrote a one-shot D&D adventure that comes with the book. So for people that don't play Dungeons and Dragons or don't know how to play, it's a one-shot single-player adventure that all you need is 1 dice or a coin. You can play it. It'll tell you the rules of the game in a very simplified fashion. Then it leads you into the book. So that's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So like
Nice. I like that.
I think before the end of the year I'll have 5 new books out, which is really cool because it's been a pretty slow year for me, like book
Yeah.
wise. I think last year, at the end of last year we had done like 58 books, and I think this year we have like 10 new ones coming out. So like it's still a good year, especially for like an independent. But I need
Mhm.
to keep the numbers going and keep that positivity up, and that's the hard part of doing this.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think that you also got to give yourself kind of like that ability to regroup
Yes.
and go, okay, I need to, because then you kind of lose track of how to give a fresh story. Like you want to give that fresh
Right.
story, that new story. You want to keep readers engaged, and you want to tell a story. You want to educate, and you want to make sure that it's done correctly. And sometimes you have to step back and kind of give yourself a minute to
Yeah.
refresh and do a little self care and go, okay, now we're going to go back to work, and you know, but do you feel like even though you've done less writing this year, that you're still on track with your goal as an indie author?
Yeah, I challenged myself with this new book we have coming out called American Juan. Like, it's more of a political story, but I work at a torteria, and I work with a lot of like older Hispanic people. So they live in a state of fear. Like, I don't have that fear because I know where I was born. I know all that stuff. Like, I'm here. I can't go anywhere else. But it's like for them, there's that constant state of uncertainty, and I
Yeah.
wanted to write a book that like I can't just sleep on these things that are happening. Unfortunately, like I don't have that in me. I'm not a quiet person when it comes to that. So I wanted to
Yeah.
challenge myself and to see if I can make something for like about that. And that book is coming out hopefully by the end of the year. But it's something that I wrote just so like anyone who feels like you can't really enjoy art in a time where there is so much uncertainty and just kind of
Yeah.
chaos, that you can, because art, I think, when it's at its best, and especially when sci-fi is at its best, is when it's helping explain everything to you, like
Yes.
how these
Or
things.
challenging thought and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
yeah, I know what you're getting at.
and that's what
Mm-hmm.
this book is going to be. And it's my telling. It's like a Don Quixote story, but it's my version of it set now in this environment. And
Yeah.
it's still going to be funny because I don't know how to not write sarcastically about certain things.
It's
So it'll
true.
still have that bite to it, but it'll have more of like a message of just like kind of rallying ourselves again, like enjoying life
Yes.
is okay. Because definitely that's one of the reasons why I wrote slower this year, was like the world got real heavy, so it felt
Yeah.
weird to write about a mariachi singer
Yeah.
when I'm like things are happening. So finding that and allowing yourself, and I think that show Andor, if you guys have watched it, the Star Wars show, that was like the
Um.
big punch to the heart for me. Yeah,
Oh, really?
I love Diego Luna.
I
He's who
mean,
I base the mariachi character Lockjaw. If you look at his face, it's Diego Luna. That's because I love him. Since I was like 13, I
oh
saw
yeah.
Y Tu Mamá También. I was like, hey.
But
Yeah.
isn't that great that these sci-fis are influencing other genres that you write?
Yes.
I
And
think
I
that
think
that
that's like
is so significant.
sci-fi is very powerful for that, where it's everyone thinks it just has to be like space stuff, and I was like, it doesn't. It's about like exploration. It's about studying and like what do you do with information and building out the story. Like what, like if you got new information and no one believes that information, how do you convey that? And I was like, sci-fi does that better than anyone. Like Star Trek has proven that time and time again. And
Mhm.
then like
Hmm.
that's what I like about Doctor Who too, is like we're
Even
seeing
Doctor Who.
him, yeah, especially Doctor Who, like uh the way he can just kind of like travel and show us things. For me, my favorite episode is the Van Gogh one. I know like everyone loves that episode, but like every time I see it, it reminds me time and time again what the message of Doctor Who is. And it's just like to
Absolutely.
understand others. And I'm like, no one does it better than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
one of the
that's the yeah,
oh,
that's a good thing about being able to write and do comics, that you can bring these little sprinkles of truth into them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that, two of the things that I took away from Doctor Who were like, um, the one quote was that in all of time and space, he's never met anybody that wasn't important. When
Exactly.
somebody dismissed somebody, oh, they're not important. Oh, really? I've never met anybody that wasn't important. And it's kind of like everybody has their own significance. And
Yeah.
then Leah's favorite doctor, Peter Capaldi, she calls him eyebrows.
Oh,
Um, he's just be, above all else, just be kind.
yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I hold a door for somebody. I just say good morning, have a good day, whatever, and it can change somebody's entire day, their whole
Yeah.
Yes.
outlook. Just that 5 seconds of kindness, and you know what? That kindness didn't cost me anything.
No.
And I think that if that's the message I got from, that I get from sci-fi, is that the world can be a better place. And we always worry about, oh, if we were a time travel, we'd step on something. But like, what if we made those little changes now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't go back in time. You might step on a butterfly and something changes. But what if we're so worried about that? But what if we made those changes now, and then in 50 years things could be different?
I think now more than ever too, we need to look at like
Hmm.
optimistic versions of sci-fi, because
Yes.
everything's geared towards dystopian or things won't get better. But I think,
Yeah.
like you said, if we start
Yes.
now, 50 years from now, there's only utopia left. And I think that's like
Yeah.
the core of it. And I love that you said your friend's favorite doctor was Capaldi.
My daughter.
Your daughter? Okay, yeah, because
Yeah.
Capaldi like kind of got ignored a little bit because like it's right after Matt Smith, so everyone's heart's already broken. And
Yeah.
then like he had a rough run, but he had such beautiful moments, and I think like
Yeah. So
he
heavy
really gets
sometimes
overlooked.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but Capaldi's an amazing actor too. He
Mhm.
did I forgot what the British version of Veep was, but like watching him in that was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to know, tell people where we can find you, where we can find your comics. How can they
Mhm.
buy them? Because we need to get that out there, and we need to get people buying more of your comics and following you on social media.
Yeah. So I'm on all socials at Avena Comics. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm literally on everything. You'll see my face if you look up Avena Comics. I'm there. For the shop, you can go to avenacomics.com and you can buy all my work. It's all on there. I even have an option where if you're like, you got too many things, I don't know what to pick. You can do the pick 3 or pick 4 option, whatever, and you just tell me what genre you like, and then I'll curate the selection based on what I think you'll like. I used to work at a Barnes & Noble. I worked for like 12 years. So helping people find the books that they might like was like my whole job. So it's an option there. And if you're on TikTok, that's where I do a lot more, is on TikTok. You can actually buy all my work on the TikTok shop, and it's all there too.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Now, do you have anything coming up that, like an event that you're going to go to, that you're going to be at, a signing?
Yeah, I'm not going to be at New York Comic Con this year. I'm still like reeling from this year. I had to take a break. It was just too much. But I will be at GalaxyCon in Columbus. That's in December. It's a good show. It's a quieter show, but there's a lot of really cool like celebrity and voice actors. And there's never really a big line because it's in Columbus, so nobody goes there. But if you
Yeah,
can make it out,
that's like a 2-hour drive for me.
yeah, it's like 6 hours from here. But it's like it's a good show. It's a fun show. I did it last year and I really enjoyed it. I got to meet some really cool artists and stuff. So yeah, if you're gonna be there, stop by the table, say hi. I always have like free stuff that I give away to people, or just like random stories about weird encounters I get at the booth.
Love it.
That is wonderful. And I love it. I want to thank you for coming on, sharing your story, sharing your culture, and celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month with us here at the Sci-Fi Queens. You are always welcome here. And if we do a Firefly episode, you
Oh,
will be
Doctor Who.
invited back.
Or a Doctor Who.
Or Doctor Who.
Real quick,
Absolutely.
so they did a Doctor Who set of Magic the Gathering, because I still play Magic the Gathering. They did Doctor Who cards, and it's like my favorite thing ever. I have like a whole little binder of them.
Oh my goodness.
Leah got Doctor Who Monopoly for Christmas this year from my brother. We haven't opened it
That's
yet, but
cool.
it's pretty cool.
Whoa.
Yeah. I'll show you sometime. Yeah.
Oh my God. We all want to let people know when our next episode is. We are going to continue and conclude our Hispanic Heritage Month celebration on October 10th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be fun, guys. So join us. It's going to be loud, but it's Latino. So, of course, it's going to be loud. It's all good, right? But thank you so much, John. Anytime, you are more than welcome. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for watching and for being so supportive. This has been just a wonderful celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. And we will see you October 10th. Thank you for watching the Sci-Fi Queens. And be sure to support us on all our social medias. And check out our website,